Asterisk, the rain had been falling for 3 days straight in downtown Portland, turning the October evening into a symphony of droplets against windows and pavement. Sarah Martinez pulled her worn jacket tighter as she made her way home from her second job at the diner, her feet aching in shoes that had seen better years. Asterisk, at 26, Sarah had learned that life rarely offered easy pots. After her mother's medical bills had drained their savings 2 years ago, she'd been working double shifts just to keep their small apartment and pay for her mother's medications. The weight of responsibility sat heavy on her shoulders, but she carried it with the quiet dignity her grandmother had taught her. Asterisk, as she turned down the alley behind Fletcher Street, something caught her eye near the dumpsters. At first, she thought it was just another pile of discarded clothes. But then she saw the expensive watch glinting under the streetlight, and then a hand. Asterisk, Sarah's heart jumped. Someone was lying there among the garbage bags, motionless. Asterisk, she approached carefully, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. "Mija, we help when we can help. That's what makes us human." Asterisk, the man was well dressed despite his current circumstances. His suit, though rumpled and stained, was clearly expensive. His dark hair was disheveled, and the smell of alcohol hung round him like a cloud. But what struck Sarah most was how young he looked, probably not much older than herself, and how peaceful his face appeared despite everything. Asterisk, sir, she called softly, kneeling beside him. "Sir, are you okay?" Asterisk, he stirred slightly, mumbling something she couldn't understand. His breathing was steady, and she could see he wasn't injured, just thoroughly intoxicated. Sarah looked round the empty alley, then back at the stranger. She couldn't just leave him here. Asterisk, 20 minutes later, Sarah was practically dragging the semi-conscious man up 2 flights of stairs to her apartment. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, peeked out her door with concern. Asterisk, Sarah, dear, what on earth? Asterisk, found him in the alley. Mrs. Chen, couldn't leave him there. Sarah panted, struggling with the man's weight. Asterisk, Mrs. Chen, who had seen enough of life to understand without explanation, simply nodded and helped Sarah get him inside. Asterisk, Sarah's mother, Eleanor, looked up from her evening medication routine as they entered, despite her illness. Eleanor's eyes still held the warmth that had carried their family through countless storms. Asterisk, another stray. Mija, Eleanor asked with a knowing smile. Asterisk, he was by the dumpsters. Mama, in this rain, he could have gotten really sick. Asterisk, together, they managed to get the stranger onto their small couch. Sarah covered him with their one good blanket and placed a glass of water on the coffee table beside him. Then she sat in the kitchen chair, watching over him as her mother went to bed. Asterisk, the man slept deeply through the night. Sarah dozed fitfully in the chair, waking periodically to check on him. Round dawn, she heard movement and opened her eyes to find him sitting up, looking round with obvious confusion. Asterisk, where am I? His voice was hoarse, uncertain. Asterisk, you're safe, Sarah said gently, rising from the chair. I'm Sarah. I found you in the alley last night. You were, well, you needed help. Asterisk, the man looked down at himself, then round the modest apartment. Sarah could see him taking in the threadbare furniture, the small space, the careful way everything was arranged to make the most of very little. Asterisk, I'm David, he said slowly. David Morrison, and I don't remember much about last night. He paused, his voice growing quieter. Actually, I don't remember much about the last few weeks. Asterisk, Sarah brought him coffee in one of their to-good mugs. Do you want to talk about it? Asterisk, David stared into the coffee for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his words came slowly, as if each one cost him something. Asterisk, my father died 6 weeks ago. Cancer. He built everything we had from nothing, and suddenly I'm supposed to run a company with 300 employees, make decisions that affect all these families. I have a business degree, but I'm not him. Asterisk, he looked up at Sarah with eyes that held a pain she recognized. I've been drinking every night since the funeral. Last night must have been worse than usual. Asterisk, Sarah sat down across from him. I lost my father when I was 16. Different circumstances. But I understand feeling like you're drowning. Asterisk, they talked as the morning sun filtered through the small window. David learned about Sarah's jobs. Her mother's illness, and how they made ends meet. Sarah learned about David's company, Morrison Industries, and how he'd been struggling with grief and the overwhelming responsibility thrust upon him. Asterisk, I should go, David said eventually, standing up and reaching for his wallet. Let me pay you for your trouble. Asterisk, no, Sarah said firmly. You don't pay someone for a basic human decency. Asterisk, David stared at her for a moment, and something shifted in his expression. When's the last time someone did something for you without expecting anything in return? Asterisk, Sarah thought about it and realized she couldn't remember. Asterisk, David was quiet for several days after that morning, but Sarah noticed things beginning to change. The first sign was the delivery of groceries to their apartment. Expensive items they never bought, but that appeared with a note saying only thank you. Asterisk, then Sarah's mother received a call from the medical center saying an anonymous donor had paid off her outstanding bills. Asterisk, when Sarah arrived at the diner for her shift the following week, her manager informed her that someone had called to offer her position in administration at a downtown company, with benefits and a salary that would let her quit her second job. Asterisk, Morrison Industries, the manager read from his notes. They specifically asked for you. Asterisk, Sarah's heart raced as she realized what David had done, but when she called the number, she was told Mr. Morrison was unavailable. Asterisk, it was Mrs. Chen who finally gave her the address. That young man came by, she said with a knowing smile. Left this for you. Asterisk, the note was simple. Would you like to have coffee and discuss how we might help each other? Asterisk, they met at a small cafe downtown. David looked different, still grieved, but somehow more grounded. Asterisk, I've been thinking about what you said. He began. About drowning. I realized I was drowning because I was trying to do everything the way my father did it. But maybe, I need to do things my way. Asterisk, which is. Asterisk, I want to start a foundation for people like you, like your mother, people who work hard but still struggle. And I want you to help me run it. Asterisk, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I don't know anything about running a foundation. Asterisk, I don't know much about helping people the way you do. David replied. But I think together we might figure it out. Asterisk, 6 months later, the Martinez Morrison Foundation opened its doors. Sarah's mother, her health stabilized with proper medical care, became their first volunteer coordinator. David had stopped drinking entirely and threw himself into learning about the community needs they were trying to address. Asterisk, on the foundation's opening day, as Sarah watched families receive assistance that would change their lives. She thought about that rainy October night. She'd only intended to help one person who needed it. Asterisk, sometimes, she realized, the smallest acts of kindness create ripples that spread far beyond what we can imagine. Her grandmother had been right. Helping when you can help is what makes us human. But what her grandmother hadn't told her was that sometimes, in helping others, we help ourselves in ways we never expected. Asterisk, David appeared beside her, watching a single mother receive funding for job training. Asterisk, thank you, he said quietly, for not walking past that alley. Asterisk Sarah smiled. Thank you for not giving up. Asterisk outside. It began to rain again, but this time it felt like a blessing rather than a burden. The sound of it against the windows seemed to whisper that sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simplest choices: to stop, to care, and to act with kindness when kindness is needed most. Asterisk in a world that often felt harsh and forgiving. They had created something beautiful together, not because they had to, but because they chose to believe that every person deserves compassion, and that healing happens best when we heal together.